Hey everyone, thank you so much for joining me on this call today. I want to introduce you to an amazing friend, someone who I just love and adore, and I think you need to meet her and know her too. She's a great friend of mine, and she's also an author of the book that is amazing. I want to introduce you to my dear friend, Bettina Gordon. She is an
Hi, everybody.
Bettina, tell me. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. So Bettina is from someone I met several years ago through a mutual friend. I got to know her, and she's an amazing writer. I've followed some of her writing, and it's because I'm a writer too. I've been following it for a while. I always thought it was great. She reached out to me not too long ago and said, "Hey, I've got this brand new book. Can you tell us the title of your book?"
I can even show the book because I know you only have the electronic version right there with you. So it's called The Joy of Later Motherhood, Your Natural Path to Healthy Babies, Even in Your 40s.
Awesome. So the reason I'm talking about this book today is I absolutely love it. When she asked me to take a look at the book, I said, "Sure, of course. Let me take a look at it." And I started reading it, and I got to tell you, I was surprised that a man at my age loved that book so much.
Mm-hmm.
It's because it literally spoke directly to my clients who I've been working with for the last decade. And she's been there, she's lived it, she absolutely knows your thoughts, your fears, your concerns, all those things. And I want to introduce you to her because I think this book is so powerful, and it is such a game changer for women at a certain age who start to think about having a child and their prospects for motherhood and maybe their late 30s. So Bettina, tell us a little something about the book. What is it that inspired you to write this book that I just think is amazing?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dave. You know what it is? It's really like I titled the book because that's what it is. The Joy of Later Motherhood. That's what it really is for me. And I'm third generation of women who have their children in the 40s. My grandmother had my aunt when she was 42. That's 70 years ago. My mom had me when she was in her 40s. My parents were already married for 20 years when I came along. And now for me, having a child in my 40s was a natural thing. So for me, age, I don't have that age stigma around the whole topic. And when I had my boy, Dave, I was so happy. I thought, like, this is such a great experience to have had a life, to have had a career before becoming a mom, because then I really enjoyed every moment of my pregnancy. I enjoyed being with him. I stayed home with him for the first couple of years to just really enjoy this experience. And I think it is so beneficial to be of a certain age because as the parent you show up differently and you enjoy it so much. So basically that was my motivation to write the book, because I thought there are literally millions of women around the world who will make the most extraordinary mothers and will attract the most extraordinary beings to them as their children. And I want to help them. They need to know that this narrative that's out there currently, that only speaks about the risks, your ticking clock, that put the fear, the daylight, what is that? The fearing daylight into you, whatever the expression is. You can hear it in my voice. I'm not a native speaker, but I get very passionate about this. So I want these women who will be wonderful mothers to hear a different perspective of what it truly means to become a mother later in life. And that's really why I wrote the whole book, to give women a different perspective.
I think what you were trying to say is they scare the living daylights out of you, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Yes, exactly.
Got it. So, and I think that's one of the reasons why this book is so good, because when you mix in your personal experience, you know what it's like. You kind of talk about in the book what it was like when you were first thinking about having a child. There was some uncertainty. You thought you did, then you didn't, then you weren't sure how it was going to happen. So I think you take people down that road, which I think is really incredible. And then you also were a journalist. So you bring like a journalist's mindset and skill set to this issue. So it's a very personal experience, and then there's a very professional side of it where you interview a lot of the best, people who are making a huge difference. Can you talk about that aspect of it too?
Oh yes, absolutely. So for me, it was important because I have my story, which is very personal, but it's only one story.
Yeah.
Being a journalist, I wanted to make it more about many women's stories, I wanted to have, and the real stories, not the ones that are sanitized and, you only say about 1/3 of the things that you really want to say.
Mm.
So I was setting out to find many more women who had their children in their 40s. And funny enough, I found many more women that conceived naturally than I thought initially possible. Because, I'm living in our society. I read the newspapers, I read the headlines. And so when I was about 20, 30 interviews in, I realized most of the women that I'd interviewed so far had natural pregnancies, and I thought like, oh, this is the real story.
Yeah.
Because it's all about fertility, not infertility with age. It's all about fertility and having a different mindset. And when I realized, okay, so this should really be my focus, I was like, okay, so what did these women do? Where did they get their information from so that they were not so fearful and so on? And this set me on a path, as a journalistic path, into a whole new world called the natural fertility experts.
Ah.
I discovered, seriously, a whole new world out there that focuses on fertility. Mm-hmm. That doesn't immediately say, oh, you're that and that age, your chances are dropping like this, and the risks of having a child that's not healthy goes like that. No. These are women. These are practitioners, these are experts in their field that have literally a different perspective. And one of the most favorite, in my opinion, in this realm is Dr. Christiane Northrup. Many of your clients may know her because she's the women's health pioneer, and she wrote what I call the women's health Bible, women's bodies, women's wisdom, like 25 years ago. And what she already did is, she is a trained and board certified OBGYN and obstetrician. But what she already did decades ago was, when a woman comes to her and presents whatever symptoms she may have, Dr. Northrup said, okay, let's sit down and now tell me what's going on in your life. So she always looked at the whole person and not those
the test results.
Or whatever inches of your reproductive organs, which we still do in most practice Western medicine. Your infertility specialist will look exactly here, but not here. Yes. And that's the biggest difference I found with the natural fertility practitioners. They look at the whole person. They have that approach that's called functional medicine approach, where you seriously look at the whole person, and fertility is part of your whole system.
Oh my God, I love what you're saying.
Yeah, it's not something that's detached from you, and this is what we need to look at fix. No, it is part of the whole system. So my biggest takeaway from the book is, fertility is an extension of your overall health.
Yes, absolutely.
And you can improve it, your fertility. And here I'm coming back to Dr. Northrup, we can influence our fertility by simply listening to all the messages that are out there in society, that you read in the media, online. It is incredible. And I would like to read one sentence. So a few years ago, I traveled to Maine to interview Dr. Northrup in person. And we had a conversation. It was more towards the end of our interview that somehow fertility and age came up, because I think I was in my early 40s by then. And I told her that my husband and I are thinking about having a baby. And I told her that I'm third generation of women in my family who have children in their 40s. And she looked at me and said, oh, you'll be fine, You conceive like no other, will give birth like you're 27 years old, and you will have no issues at all, because that's how I grew up. That's what I learned to be normal. And lo and behold, that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
Natural pregnancy, natural birth, like I delivered as I was in my 20s. And during this conversation, Dave, she said something that was so interesting to me. She said, the women get all these negative messages about the ticking time. They feel like they have a time bomb sitting inside their bodies, just waiting to go off, and that releases all the stress hormones that create a biochemistry in our body that is completely contrary to our ability to conceive children. But here's what she also said. She said that, and the higher educated we are, the more we believe this to be true, because we go by data, we go by statistics, and this is what we hear all the time. And to give me a great example, she was working in a hospital up in Boston earlier in her career, and she said there are so many women, Catholic women, that came in, they had the 6, 7, 8 child in their mid-40s, late 40s, even into their 50s. And Dr. Northrup said she was making a joke, but I think she was also serious about it. She says, you know, these were just women that came from a mindset that having large families is what you do. That was their peer group. Having large families is normal. Having children in your 40s is normal. And she said, it was so funny, she said, you know, the only thing we could stop them from having children is tying their tubes, or, you know, or performing another surgery that would physically prevent them from having children. Right. And I said to her, what, this is just a mindset piece? And she says, it's like we as a society, we shape each other's physiology. And she, in the meantime, wrote a book, Goddesses Never Change, that I would also recommend to anybody interested in the topic reading, because she says, when you put out your age, you get a certain message from society back, and I completely feel this. It's so true, because we have an association of what a certain number means. Yes. And so many women are getting already freaked out when they turn 35, because they have a certain mindset. What does that mean? What does society expect from me? I haven't had my children. So we are very mindset-driven society, and influenced by what others are thinking and by our peer group. And here, finally, I'm coming to the sentence that I wanted to read to you. Okay, listen to this. And that's the sentence that I never forgot.
I'm so glad you're sharing this story. I love this. This is what made me fall in love with the book, specifically this story.
Really?
Absolutely. I'd love to hear the sentence.
Okay, so she's many women have already talked themselves out of fertility before they even try to conceive. And because the uterus and the brains are so profoundly connected, women making themselves infertile but don't even know it.
Yes.
The more left hemisphere dominant you get, the more MBAs and PhDs you have, the higher up the food chain you are, the worse it gets. So that's a conversation I had with her, and that one sentence, women are making themselves infertile but don't even know it.
Literally too smart for their own good in some ways, you know, because they're focusing on what they're afraid of.
Stuck with me. Yes, it's that one sentence.
Yes, it's powerful. And I love the other thing you said too, is literally, it's traditionally people who've had trouble conceiving look for answers in the infertility industry.
Yes.
And words have meaning, and like there is also a fertility industry, and there are experts who focus on fertility. You want to be fertile, if you want to reproduce, you focus on fertility. You don't focus on the absence of fertility and expect that that's not going to be a huge problem. And this is exactly why I absolutely love your book, and I'm so delighted to help introduce it to my clients. If I've had this conversation one time, I've had it hundreds of times probably with women who with really serious concerns, and they're turning themselves inside out with this emotional fear and concern and feeling like the window's closing. And it's not just about that. It's not an age issue. Then it becomes about a self-worth issue. Like, why doesn't anyone want me? Why am I running out of time? What's the matter with me? Why is this not meant to happen? And it's what I call you throwing yourself down the stairs, taking one terrible thought and then turning it into 15, you know, and it's so unproductive. And that's why I love the book. I love that story about Dr. Northrup. So thank you so much for sharing it with the people.
So that's why I wrote the whole book, because we need a different perspective. It's like if we can just focus on fertility, as you said, instead of infertility. And this is what the book is all about. Yeah. It's about fertility. It's about inspiration. It's showing other women what's possible. Then we have a different conversations.
Yeah. And what I love too is it's almost like three books in one. One, it's a little bit of your personal journey and your personal
Yeah.
experience. Two, it's a bunch of interviews with experts who know exactly what they're talking about, who can maybe help you learn the exact right thing at the exact right time, like I'm thinking Dr. Northrup did in that story. And then three, you also interview a lot of other women, as you said, who have been down that road, who have learned a few things about this process. They've learned what worked, they learned what didn't work, and you share that information, you talk about it. And
Yes.
like you said, you were surprised. Your expectation, the journalist's expectation, was that you were going to get a bunch of people who had done IVF and paid a bunch of money and somehow find a way to somehow have a baby through medical miracles. But the truth is, once you got into it deeper, you learned that this isn't so outrageous or out of the norm
Exactly.
at
Yeah.
all.
We may not be the outliers.
Yes.
I'm really thinking we may not be the outliers. We may be much more normal or the norm than we would think.
Yes. But that's not the part that gets publicity. I think you made the point also really beautifully in the book. I don't want to tell everyone too much about it. I think you made the point that the truth of the matter is the infertility industry are the ones who were telling the story. They have an agenda. Their agenda is that you pay a lot of money for infertility clinics, and so they have an agenda. And again, if you think you're going to have trouble falling pregnant, as they say in Australia, then you probably will, because again, it's a thought. Thoughts create things. There's this whole mental energy. It's the difference of going to a fertility specialist or an infertility specialist. It's focusing in the direction of what you want and literally creating the future based on where you put your energy. Is it on faith and hope and love, or is it on fear and scarcity and lack?
Yeah, and I believe that, for example, since you brought it up, I mean, the fertility industry, the infertility industry, the assisted reproductive possibilities that we have today are wonderful. And there are 5 million little children by now, also adults, in this world that wouldn't be here any other way.
Oh, right.
So
No.
it has so much, it brought so many good things to the world. However, also the older you get, you have less chances that IVF will help you conceive a child. So what I'm saying is, like, IVF and all the other procedures, it shouldn't be the only thing that you automatically turn to.
We live in amazing times. There are all kinds of
And
ways.
so from that, it's a wonderful, wonderful help if you need it. However, I would love you to start with the focus on faith, fertility, learn about how to enhance your fertility, how to preserve it, how to set yourself up for natural pregnancy before you have to go the other way around.
Right. And if you do have to go that route, you have some.
Yeah, and then be lovely, wonderful. But the focus at first can really be on fertility. And this is what Dr. Northrup also says. She used to, like, as a Western trained physician, she was looking at the illnesses. She was looking at, okay, what can go wrong with the body? Yes. And now, and that speaks so much to me in my heart, in the book is, we focus on what can go right with the body.
Yes, you focus on wellness if you want more wellness, rather than focus on illness.
You focus on fertility.
Right.
And nothing other.
I love it. I think the other powerful thing that I use that as an example of the power of mindset to create what it is you want. And I think what Dr. Northrup's experience, I think there are 4 keys to about a powerful belief. It's having an absolute feeling of certainty. The people that she's working with in that hospital, they have certainty that they're going to absolutely do it because it's powerful and it's pervasive. They see it everywhere. They see it's their identity. As a Catholic mom, you're expected to have a bunch of babies, so it's not out of the norm. And there's also the community. It's your community standards and what's expected. So you've got these expectations and these beliefs that are absolutely moving in the direction of this is possible for you. And then you have a bit of a faith component and know that it's going to happen to you, for you. So, if you have absolute certainty, if it's your identity, if it's who you are, if it's the expectation of your community, and then you just have a little faith, I think amazing things can happen when you put those 4 things together. And as you said, if you're still having a physiology issue that's getting in the way. We have an incredible industry that can make a difference for you too. So there's a lot of possibilities. We live in exciting times. You know, I think you would agree that it's probably a good idea to focus on what's great and also focus in the direction of what you want to create, not what you're afraid of. And I think that's why I love the book so much. It's so powerful, such a game changer.
Yes, and we're changing literally the narrative about later motherhood. We're creating new community, new peers.
Yes.
You know, we're literally changing the narrative, and that's why I'm so excited about this. And may I please mention one thing that's connected with the book?
About the fact that it was a #1 bestseller within days? Is that where you
Thank you. Yes, it became an Amazon bestseller 2 months before we even come out into the bookstores.
That's amazing.
Yeah, so 2 months before, and now it's coming out on May 1st. And what I want your community, my community, the women who are come to this topic a little later than others, I would like to give them a gift. If you now pre-order the book, I've done interviews with experts in the field, that fertility experts and others all around, you know, later motherhood, that I'm offering for the pre-sale phase, and then also maybe into the early summer. I'm offering these interviews for free to anybody who buys the book, because I want you to know right away what the deal is. You know, not just the book and the expert interviews. So we're changing the narrative as quickly as possible.
Yes, we are. That is incredibly generous. Thank you. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah.
That's a lot of bang for your book there.
Yes, I'd say yes. And a complete shift in mind change. That's like really invaluable.
Well, if anybody didn't know already, I think they now see why I'm such a big fan, why I absolutely love this book, and why I'm honored to help spread the word about it. I think it's so great. Let me ask you one other question.
Please.
Based on your experience when you had when you were deciding on having a baby, like in your early years, what's one piece of advice you maybe wish when you were going through the really tough part about do I want to, not sure? What's one piece of advice from someone who is with wisdom like you have today? What's one piece of advice you wish someone had given you at an earlier time?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think, you know what, I was very stuck in my mindset. I had so many contradictory fears. Do I really want to be a mom? How would that be, and so on? That was going on in my mind. And so it took me a few years to come around. I'm not a woman who makes decisions like of that magnitude quickly. I'm a bit of a slow learner here in that sense. Yeah, but I was so stuck in my mindset, and I should have listened to my intuition potentially sooner. So that's one thing that I learned, because my heart said, no, you would like to have a child, and then just give up the control of how it has to be. My life today is it is like I am so on purpose, so on target. Like, it's so funny to me that I struggled for many years with the question, should I become a mom or not? Because this now gives me the biggest fulfillment I've ever had. I mean, besides my boy. We're talking professionally now. This is my passion. This is my fulfillment. And just come to think that I struggled. Do I even want to be a mom or not? It's just really funny to me. So we never know what the outcome can be. It's fantastic.
I love it. I talk about that all the time with my clients, and this is why I, again, love this book. Is anyone doubting how much I love this book? One, it is your evolutionary advantage. It's there to keep you safe. So trust it and believe it when it comes up, and you can have faith in it. And also just again, faith is the other part of it. Just let go and know that you're kind of, probably would say maybe a little divinely guided, that your life is at an amazing place right now.
Yes.
You have an amazing husband, Joshua, wonderful son, amazing.
The divinely guided part, I think that if I may add that, because looking back, I would say, like, in my 30s, I had absolutely, ways where like, that was not so good, things were not so good, blah, blah. There is a divine guidance that I see today in hindsight.
Yes.
That is really important. And just for some women, motherhood happens early, and for us, it happens later. And there's a good reason for that. And a good plan. We just don't know how it works out at the end. But now I'm like, yoo-hoo, perfect.
Yeah. Wow. I love
it. There is really divine guidance in everybody's life. I now come to believe.
Yeah. Well, what I also believe is that you writing this book and sharing it with so many people, I think there's going to be a lot of divine guidance within this book that I think the right people are going to read it at the right time. And I think it's going to make a powerful difference. And I think it's going to eliminate a lot of suffering for people who maybe don't know some of the information that you share in this book. So I think it's going to make a profound difference. And I'm so just delighted and honored, as I said, to share it with people that I follow and people follow me. And I think it's awesome. So thank you so much for being with me today and sharing this.
Thank you so much. Your words meant a lot to me. Thank you. Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks, dear. Bye.
Bye.